We are live. Spoilers in this video. Welcome to Dark Phoenix Thoughts film. And in some places, X-Men Dark Phoenix Thoughts film. In 3D. Gotta remember to put that in the title as well. Briefly, the 3D, it's okay. It definitely does add depth. I mean, I know this isn't something you either pay for or don't. It's just kind of, if you go to the movie theater, the what do they call subwoofers in the floor, those added that whenever like something was flying, taking off, that was awesome. If I was judging that, then I would definitely say make sure to buy that. But the 3D, there, I don't think it's a post conversion, but it's not filmed to especially use it the way something like Parts of Iron Man 3 and yeah, just various Sin City 2, some of that movie. I don't remember if it's all of it, but certainly some parts really use the 3D well. Anyway, to get to the actual movie. I did I already Happy Pride Month, excellent time to release an X-Men movie. I'm not sure if I already said that. I am not asleep, and I'm gonna try not to be too sleepy. Is the camera supposed to be? Yeah, I guess it's okay. We're gonna do the pretend airplane thing. Yeah, I'm pretty well censored. In the camera, not otherwise. In the that part of the frame. Anyway, so right. This video contains spoilers, including for earlier entries in the franchise. It's a long video, but there are time codes for different sections in the description box. I am gonna try really hard not to, like, just straight up get really sleepy, but yeah. Now, my own film critic rating for this. I really have got to get into the habit of actually coming up with that before I start recording. I think where it lands is a 6. And my personal rating, I'm leaning towards 7, but I guess ultimately it is 6. There's just so many things. Like when this movie started, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna enjoy this. This is like, oh man, Raven is all like, I'm gonna protect you. Don't worry, Jean. You come on this. I will keep you safe. This mission is safe. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask you to go on." And you've got Scott all like, my girlfriend says she can do it. She can do it. And all this stuff. And then it just doesn't pay off on it. Like there's no. I mean, I guess you could say that Raven confronts Charles about that it wasn't safe and he pushed them too far. But I don't know, just overall, I get maybe the follow up just wasn't well executed. But anyway, yeah, there were definitely things I liked about this movie, but I cannot pretend that the whole is all that great, and it's yeah. So we're gonna go into the notepad I was bringing to the movie theater. See, again, I bring 2 pads because I found out a while ago the MCU, there's so much content there. There's so much I want to say, so I always need 2. Endgame, I if I had had a third, like I started writing on the back of and such. For this one, I used the one, but I did end up writing a little bit on the back. I decided there was so little for me to write that it would be pointless to break out the other one. So, but yeah, I yeah, I'm just reiterating, Endgame had a million things to say. This I have substantially less. However, we're gonna jump headfirst into notes taken while watching. There we go. And yeah, these are going to be these are not necessarily going to be in order. So as far as I could tell, the movie was 1 hour and 45 minutes. And if you do count the end credit, the entirety of the end credits, that's not end credits, if you do count them, 1 hour and 55 minutes. And I mean, if you're watching this video, the idea is you already watched the movie. But if you've watched this far into this video and you haven't watched the movie itself, there is nothing at the end. There's no mid-credits or post-credit scene. So you might as well just get up the moment that it's not even like some movies at least try to have like interesting looking credits. It's just yeah, like yeah. Now let's see. So a couple of these things I wrote a couple of things about the ending because I ran out of pages, so I went back to the front of it. So I guess that there at the end she's like the star baby, and it gets like all Akira Oz, and it's like I'm not gonna go into detail about that. I'm not gonna spoil Akira, neither the manga nor the anime here. But those who are familiar with one or more of them know, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I made sure to write I wrote out post credits, just readying to put something there, and when there was nothing, I just wrote zilch. And we have opening and closing narration by Gene, which I do think was I don't know that I felt like it was like unbelievably amazing. Again, it's like some of the in theory, this movie is great in theory, but the moment that you actually there are so many things about this movie that are like, oh, that's amazing in theory. They like it's basically like the movie the first time you realize they're going somewhere. That's they're like they bring out the they're the speech. They unfold the speech, they clear their throat, and they get the microphone right, and you're like, oh my god, here it's coming, and then just yeah, it does not go well. So I guess what I'm getting at is that from what I recall, the only basically this and X-Men 2 are the only two X-Men movies that have other than main con like yeah X-Men movie main X-Men movies. The other I'm not talking about the Wolverine solo films or the Deadpool solo films, but specifically the yeah excuse me. From what I recall, this and X2 are the only two to have narration both at the start and at the end. The others, some of the others have at the start. Anyway, X2 at the start it's Professor Xavier, and at the end it's Jean, which suggests which tells you in some way she's still alive because that's because the dead don't talk. It's not that kind of movie. It's not the kind of movie where the dead talk. So in X2, what Jean says at the end is the same thing that Professor Xavier said at the start of the first movie. It's the same narration. So in this movie, both narrations are done by Jean, and they do relate to each other. It's not that, you know, I do like that they did it in X2, but ultimately, I mean, it's the exact same words though. I don't know. I no, they were going for a like a cyclical kind of, they were going for a thing, and I think it worked there. But I do like, again, like, and in theory love what they did here. It's just I don't. So there at the end in the narration, she's like, I have evolved into a, and it's like, you have what now? I don't I don't mind when a movie's ending like just pulls the rug out from under you, but I feel like you maybe need to do a little bit of legwork before you pull something like that. I just, I mean, I know that that's the, that's the supposed explanation. That's why, you know in the X-Men universe, that's why mutants have mutant abilities. It's because of evolution. It's because of how it's evolved. But then you go and say, and she's like, she's just floating up there as like a, you know the with the phoenix kind of glowy. Yeah, it's just, you're gonna have to be a little bit more. You're gonna have to go into a little bit more detail there, movie. Otherwise, it really does just feel like, I mean, is that what it was? Like, they filmed an ending and showed it to a test audience, and they were like, get this out of my face immediately. And then they were like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Okay, okay, okay. It's cool. It's cool. How about we do this? And then they did it, and there wasn't time to test it, and so it ended up in the final cut of the movie to to which a resounding "huh" rang through every single theater. I do not know what that ending is supposed to mean, but yeah, I you know what, I'm gonna see if I can get the camera just a tiny bit. If you don't like the when the image when the camera bounces, look away for just like, I don't know. I'll listen to, focus on my voice, Gene. We're gonna get through this together. Look away, and when I say, okay, look again, that wasn't it. But when I say that, when I say, crap, what was the Jehovah? I feel like it was Jehovah. It's been too long since I watched Life of Brian. Look away, and yes, you can look again. That was definitely better. I usually do, oops, try to deal with this stuff before I hit record. But again, I am tired. This is a slightly new setup. I've tried to improve the lighting a little bit, but it does mean that there is a light bulb shining, and it's the what's like spotlight. Like, it's not a spotlight for like a stage show, but it is the kind of light bulb that is made for a spot. And let's see. Yes, so yes, so child Jean, 8-year-old Jean, I believe, is, she's not intentionally using her powers, but this other side kind of thing. is using them to, yeah. And we open on a car accident, much like Shazam. Did I already? Accident anyway. Right, and here again, I went back and noted here, since there's space. When Jean destroys things, afterwards she'll be like, "How I can't believe you kicked me out. You know, they kicked me out the door." And it's like, Jean, you and Eric, as far as we know, we're not that close. I mean, you helped each other. You both rebuilt the X Mansion at the very end of X-Men Apocalypse. But other than that, I wasn't, when I went into this movie, I was not 100% certain if Eric knew Jean's name. If that was at all like, yeah, they both used their yeah, her telekinesis and his manipulation of metal. But that was basically, and then just like, okay, yeah, so I led the military right here to this is right after they've had a conversation where he made it very clear. I used to hurt people, I don't do that anymore. And she brings the military there, and then she starts like taking their helicopters down. It's like, and then, okay, the other helicopter flies away, and then he's like, you have to go, and she's like, why? Like, I'm sorry, but she really, it's like, did she not mature emotionally past the age of 8, and was she an unbelievably spoiled brat? Like, that's, you can't just walk into someone's home, you know, bring military and police in there, start attacking them to where, you or others might get hurt, and then be like, so now you don't want me to stay around. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. I really, they did not. It is incredible that they, yeah. And yeah, the car crash is caused by the telekinesis, and with Jean unharmed from the crash, Xavier wheels in and tries to, gives her the spiel. And, yeah, so just before Elijah could, because he looked for a very particular set of words. Yes. And she points out, now when you say special, and he, I feel like this was almost kind of good, but then again, like when he's like, gifts, we can do good with them, or we can do ill with them. Like this pen, this is a gift. You could use it to write. What was it he said? Write poetry, something. Or you could stab someone's eye with. Well, don't give the kid ideas. You've seen. Well, you haven't, but you know, by the time I'm sitting here and talking to you about it, I've seen what Jean is gonna do if she just like, ooh, helicopter. This is Jean, honey. Leave the military and their vehicles alone. Just please. put down the helicopter, let the nice men walk away peacefully. Like Film Brain, I don't even know exactly what it is you're doing when you're. It's just. Why is she attacking the cops in the military? It's like the movie needs an action scene, so let's just and I mean she's her powder her power is out of control. So naturally she starts. I mean, it's not as though she just like sneezes and helicopters explode. No, no, no. She's like, oh, helicopter, let me use my mind power and she has to put effort into this. This is not like by accident. I mean, that is at least something that I'm not going to make very many positive statements about X-Men The Last Stand in this, because I do think a lot of things this movie does do better, and I don't think that it is necessarily a problem to be doing a lot of things that another movie did. I realize that I criticized Apocalypse for redoing scenes that had been done in earlier X-Men movies. But part of my issue there was that those scenes did not fit in the, excuse me, and some of them really had, excuse me, yeah, they were better the first time. And look, I don't think that you can make Blob look right in live action. I just don't. And I appreciate that they kind of sort of admitted it by having him only like on screen for like a second and he doesn't move, because and you only, yeah, I mean he's essentially a two-dimensional. He's just lying, well, not flat because he's Blob, but yeah, that's how the Blob can look. Yeah, that's he looks good in 2D. It's a kind of neat design. It's not like awesome or something, but it is like it's a memorable design. Once you've seen Blob, you know what Blob looks like. You know, and I know this is going to come as a shock to some people, but he does not look like fat bastard, big, weird looking fat suit. What's his name? Kevin something. Nan? I don't remember his name. Yeah, from X-Men Origins Wolverine. But one positive thing I will say about X-Men The Last Stand is when something just kind of sets off Jean and she just like attacks and it doesn't really seem like it's basically just happening, like yeah, like if you like let's say that someone has like hiccups and you decide if I give them like yeah, if I spook them, they're gonna stop hiccuping, but you don't tell them that that's what you're gonna do, so you just go like up, you know sneak up behind them and go boo right behind them, and they like they get startled, so they accidentally like I don't know, yeah, maybe they smack the back of their head into the front of your head. Technically, that wasn't them intentionally hurting you. That was just like a reaction. That's how it is for Jean's violence in X-Men The Last Stand, but not in this. In this, it really is like just, yeah, just you can't possibly you can't possibly think you're going to be welcome in Genosha after you brought the military there, and then like and Eric is like, I'm telling you, she's not here. You gave us this, you know, this island, and is like, and then she goes out and starts attacking the military. I mean, Eric could have chosen to like smack her in the back of the head with something heavy to make her let go of the helicopters, but instead he tries to just get the other helicopter, But then right after, she's still gonna be like, dude, I thought you were cool. First of all, no, you didn't. You never thought he was cool. Second of all, Gene, what? How could she possibly, in that situation, still just, you know what? You know what? If you find yourself in that situation, again, I learned this the hard way. You just go, my bad. That's the door. Talk to you later. Just at that point, you don't whine about. I thought you'd let me crash here. This is. I can't believe this. I think I may need to try to avoid tangents from here on. And Xavier talks 8-year-old Jean into school. See, I definitely think this did a better job with the child Jean scenes. I mean, basically, yeah, I think I made some notes about it that I'm gonna get to, but the scenes in Last Stand are not bad, but it's definitely too little, and it is a bit like. And anyway, this does a much better job of really setting up. This is that she behaves much like you would expect an 8-year-old who lost her parents and blames herself. And I mean, some of it he suppresses and such, puts up the barriers. See, that was a scene that could have looked amazing in 3D, and it really is. Uh, I'm pretty. Isn't that one of the 7 deadly sins? Wasting 3D potential. I'm pretty sure it's one of them. Deadly sins, mortal sins, whatever. Yeah, he put the barricade in, but you do get a sense that this is she she feels like she's gonna she's gonna hurt people and she doesn't want to do that. So she's hesitant. She's reluctant to go into this school. She's like, this place is too nice. I break things. I Anything you break, I can fix. Not anything. Just there's some real, and then it comes back there at the end. And I could understand people who say that the ending bit with how it deals with Jean, the Jean the yeah, Jean and the Dark Phoenix. I can understand if you say that it's more exciting or like visually compelling in The Last Stand. But I do not understand if you say that it works better like character wise than in this, because in this it genuinely like Xavier keeps trying to just basically he wants Jean to reassert the the control and the, I guess, selflessness of that come. We've seen Jean at age 8. She is very, this is like a lot of children who've experienced really awful things can get kind of, you know, can. I'm not blaming them, but I am saying that children have a hard time dealing with things like that. And Jean became very, like, clearly she did some. It hurt, you know, but she's yeah, she's constantly trying to tell Xavier, I'm afraid of what might happen. I can't control my powers, and when I can't, people get hurt, and I don't want that to happen. And he really has to fight to convince her. And what he, and yeah. So once she's very far gone, near the end of the movie, he reminds her, "You are a good person. When you were 8 years old, I had to really fight to convince you that you could, that it would be fine for you to be in this school because you were so insistent, you were so worried that you would hurt others." And at that point, and then you also have the thing of, Cyclops's hand, which is it's one of those great Hollywood things where like you would expect for after like a couple of seconds the hand would be gone, right? I mean, she's clearly like messing it up, and so okay, and after a few seconds the hand is like gone and he's looking at a bloody stump. But instead it just kind of stays like, but he sees, she sees, he sees it too, but she sees she's hurting people she cares about. And because of that, she takes the fight into space, which is always a good. I I I used to have a problem with that. Every single time that it got really really heated, I would fly into space and just be like, I'm sorry, I am not operating on quite enough sleep here. I think you may have already realized that. But just yeah, it's I really think they did a great job. It really, like, I mean, I guess The Last Stand, the idea is supposed to be that the whole time it's been building towards, Wolverine killing her, and it's been mentioned. She asks him to do it, and Storm is like, "You're probably gonna be chicken. You're probably not gonna be able to kill her, are you?" Man, they turned that character into such, just so obnoxious in that movie. I guess Trump would call her nasty. I guess that, yeah, that is one of the she could be kind of nasty in that movie. That would be one of the few times where it would be, that would be, if Trump had called her behavior nasty in that movie. That would be one of the few times he used that word in a appropriate way. But this movie, it feels way more like, because from the start they keep saying it. It's still Jean. We can save her. Our Jean is still in there. And what do they do? Xavier, yeah, he digs in there and reminds her, you know, you're Lisa Simpson. I mean, yeah, and that's the way to deal with it. Yeah, and they have the can you fix me? I think it's, or no, you're not broken. Even though you don't work. That was slightly different from the trailer, and I like, but I think it works well for the movie, and I think it was the right choice to make it different in the trailer. It didn't feel deceptive to me. But yeah, the shuttle launch, the way the ground speakers, like, that was amazing. I know what you're thinking. That's my trick. That's not terrible. See, it's not completely humorless. It's just that there's not that much humor. Excuse me. And yeah, the president calls Xavier and is like, you know, we need your help. Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, and here we have the thing with Raven promised Jean it would be safe. And I really appreciate that the X-Men do a mission right at the start of the film. That's, I mean, it is it the first time? I think it might be the first time in one of these movies that, like, well, I guess you could say the X-Men Days of Future Past with the, but that's ultimately, anyway, I like it here and elsewhere. And right, I wrote down this movie is not directed by Bryan Singer because making more than two X-Men movies in a row is his kryptonite. And Scott calms Jean on the flight, puts his hand on her arm, and and away when they wrote. I guess Kinberg, when he sat down to write the act, I forget if there's more than one writer, but when whoever wrote the scene, I mean, they like decide, okay, let's see if we can, like, basically every single mutant, every X-Man member that goes on the shuttle mission. I mean, Raven doesn't use her powers, but she does use her rank and her expertise. So that, yeah, and Xavier's back at Cerebro and helping, like, guide the mission and keep the, yeah. So yeah, so Jean Raven doesn't use her powers, but she is the team leader. The others listen to her. But literally everybody else, like Scott, zaps that one thing. I'm just sitting there like, look, we just gotta get McConaughey in here, and then everything will be all right, all right, all right. And I mean, they, like, I guess Hank designed the in the 9 years between the between Apocalypse and this. He made the thing so that Scott could go down and, like, zap his eyes into the thing, and it would. I mean, I like it. I yeah, I quite like it, and yeah, it's good. And then, like, Storm uses her powers in space, and it's like, but I mean, Apocalypse upgraded her powers, so maybe that's why she can now, because that's pretty amazing how just the, yeah. And I thought this was really a good use of Quicksilver as well. With he gets teleported in, he's running around. And I mean, the reason that they get, yeah, Jean is there, and she gets teleported in so that she can use the abilities of a mime to pull the ship together. And I felt like it made pretty decent sense why, like, Nightcrawler. I mean, he tried to get her, but I mean, yeah, he teleported by reflex. It wasn't that he was like, well, screw you, Gene. No, it was like how if it was a startled reaction. Like, if someone goes boo right behind you, you're gonna, like, tense up a little bit. That just can't be helped. And that's what happened. And then he couldn't teleport back immediately. yeah, I felt like they staged that pretty well, and like yeah, Jean is like I can do this, and I think maybe Raven is like I don't know, I'm not sure it's safe, and Scott's like she said she can do it, and just finally I like you had to make it the last time. You had to make it the last time we saw Scott in the entire Fox X-Men continuity. Finally, you make him likable. This is like the third different version. You had the James Marsden, I want to say his name is. Then you had the kid in the 70s in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Then you had the yeah, now Ty Sheridan, and only here at the very end. Anyway, and yes, Jean with the Phoenix Force in her, excuse me, survives in space, and Nightcrawler teleports out, gets her, teleports back in, and she's all just like, what, I feel fine. Just tell you what, why don't can I have some of that cornbread? And I'm just really hungry, and I'm just really happy to have the space bug off my face, and just I why are so characters in this sort of situation, they're always like, what, I feel fine, when they should be like, why do I feel fine? I should not be feeling fine in this particular scenario. But yeah, and I noted I like Scott better here. And kids are like cheering the X-Men when they're home from mission. And one of them's got like their face painted all blue. Like it's not quite clear which of the three blue men, which member of the Blue Man Group is being celebrated there. And one of them's got like a action figure in her hands, and it's just I feel kind of like how when I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I saw how like Cassie's mother and her new fiance being all like smiling and hugging Scott, when it's like I doesn't really make sense, but it's like that's kind of nice. I mean, it's nice that we get at least one movie where people are just kind of happy to see each other, and they're like, "No, you're a hero. That's so nice. You're good. You're good. I like you." Right, and here, because there was a little bit of time where I didn't note anything else, I noted that, Kid Gene, was like changing the radio station in the car. Again, not intentionally, but it does make you. It functions as sort of PSA for parents. Like, instead of telling your kid when you're old enough to drive, you get to pick the radio station, and just consider they might mind murder you. They might use their telekinesis to crush the car around you, completely just, yeah, destroying your body in the process, whilst keeping their own little, just completely safe. Somebody just let them pick the radio station, and it's some kids are really going to take advantage of this. There's going to be a lot of parents who are going to listen to a lot of bad kids music. So maybe it's just me, but probably not. This is another of the things, like when she finds out. Oh, sorry about that. So give me a second, and I'll try and make the camera that. And I'm not entirely centered. Let me see if I can fix. There we go. So I'm not bouncing the camera. The I was gonna say, let's see. Yes. another thing that the movie, again, I in theory, I quite like it. When she, and maybe it's a PG-13 thing. I'll grant maybe. When she finds out her father is alive, and then she's like, "I'm not in any of the pictures," and it's like, you know, your mother died in a car accident. That like maybe consider that there's some chance that your father has been very emotionally, been very emotionally devastated by this entire event. And yeah, just anyway, and then he walks up and like, no, just remember the whole thing. It's like, you don't have mutant powers, right? Because just, and anyway, but yeah, she does. She remembers the whole thing, and we see that her mother. I mean, I'm not a monster. It is somewhat affecting, but it's not exactly like the most. I don't know. I just feel like that was maybe a misjudged, like, I guess. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what exactly they could have done there to. I thought that what we would see was that, again, this is, Jean is not trying to hurt people using her powers. They were out of her control in that situation. I thought we would see that it was her powers that just straight up, like maybe, the glass, we've already seen the glass, being stopped by the barrier right in front of her face. I thought the thing that they were going to do was show that right outside that barrier, tons of glass are flying right into Mother's face. So, like, again, as much as you can with PG-13, hints at it, but I just don't think the way they did it was very effective. So that, like, there's a sense that not only is she saving herself, but the way she's saving herself is actively hurting her mother. Something like that. And Quicksilver brags to the kids. It's just, and Raven accuses Xavier, says it's all about his ego and the, yeah, this thing of, she has a problem with, but he finds acceptable, risking mutant lives for non-mutant, keeping the, yeah, so that it's I that was, yeah, again, not a bad idea. Should have been a lot more effective. And she points out maybe they should be called the X-Women. It's it's off the charts. Your midichlorian count is, and he actually, I was sitting there like, I guess you need a better machine, and then he's like, I guess I gotta build a better machine. And I was like, touche. You got that one. Because it's always so annoying in those scenes where it's like, I can't believe it's off the charts. Well, I mean, could you get into a little bit more detail about what that means, and is it maybe like, just anyway? Yeah, I thought that was, and we have the introduction of the shape-shifting aliens. They're all shape-shifty in appearance. And of course, the dog knows right away because they're apparently Terminators. No, wait, no, they are tree people. They are groups. I mean, I already knew she was going to be in it because I read the Wikipedia, but Dazzler, I, I have nothing negative to say about that. I genuinely like, it's a mutant party. Like they're like, people like us now, so we could go out and like if they were doing this like early in one of the other movies, it'd be like we gotta call the police. Look at those scared. But no, it's like I mean, there's maybe not any non-mutants at the party. I mean, you don't really want to. It'd be like crashing the party of someone. Like if like a bunch of people were having a party and then you just crash that party without being a friend of anyone or anything. But it's like non-mutants who see, especially if that's from afar, it's gonna be like they know how to party. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. And we have some Raven and Beast conversation, and I quite like like Beast says later. I talked her into staying. She was gonna leave because your stuff. Yeah, I'm not gonna recite the entire one. I'm just saying I thought it was a good little thing there, and the yeah. I like how like I think Raven to Beast is like it is all about Xavier to him. Where do you think the X in X-Men comes from? I just excuse me. I kind of like. I mean, at this point, they have just kind of gotten like it's a like every so often in the movie, some a character will say something that is literally just like someone discovering the comics today and pointing out the extremely obvious, like why are they called X-Men? There are women on the team. That seems kind of sexist. So they're named X-Men after Xavier because it's like when they made the comics originally, it was like X-Men has a ring to it. Oh, and Xavier, like you know, Stan Lee has like talked about this. It's on some of the. It's probably the second X-Men movie, but yeah, the second X-Men movie, the DVD has a ton of great special features. There's some great stuff on the first one as well, but some of it is like stuff where you can only access it by watching the movie around it as well as anyway. And there's one where and Stan Lee, he's not. Yeah, he's like, well, I had to come up with some, yeah. So with X-Men and like Xavier is like, and if you're just like today is like, yeah. I mean it's anyway. I think I've and yeah, and Jean freaks out and accidentally attacks the party with a wave of energy. And see that again, that I felt worked. So yeah, and Professor X is going to use Cerebro to look in Jean's mind, and he explains about the barriers in her mind. As it, I do think that visually, like I said, 3D should be a lot better there, but visually it is a genuinely attractive scene. I do think that the movie, it's not that it doesn't have some good things. It's just that a lot of those good things feel really mired in a lot. There's like a it's kind of like if you were expecting to go hiking in nature and you end up just having to slog through like marshland, and like every so often it's like, oh man, this is a great place to hike, but then you have to move on through more marshland. That's kind of what it's like but I do generally, yeah. of course, it's going to be more visually interesting than a movie that came out 13 years prior, but still, I do think that when we're looking deep into her mind like that, and how Charles keeps asking Beast to increase the power, you know, is no, that will be way too slow. And let's see, yeah, and she fights Professor X, and she finds out her dad is still alive. He's got the psychic nosebleed. She woke up. What does that mean? Hmm. Not turn up power. Oh, right, right. The Beast says he won't. He refuses to turn the power further. I could hurt you again. I'll take that chance, but I won't. And she mentally knocks him out. Mentally knocks him out. And again, I'm sorry, but in some ways this movie is better than The Last Stand, which I realize is damning with faint praise. But still, I haven't read everybody's. I haven't read anybody's full review. I've read the. Felt like it took an eternity, especially because I did almost all of them in a single sitting. But I did read the Rotten Tomatoes reviews that came out before I watched the movie, as well as Metacritic and such. But there aren't that many on there. But I don't know. Maybe other people are already saying it, but there are definitely things that this movie does better than Last Stand. This time, Jean goes to her old house for a reason. It's not just like when it happens in the Last Stand. I mean, I remember watching it years ago, probably around 2006, with someone who had watched and loved the first two movies. Huge fans, and he knew a bunch of the comics as well. He had not read the Dark Phoenix saga, and when they're like suddenly, and then it's like, yeah, suddenly Jean is at her the house she grew up in. You know, he's like, why? Oh, right, the house at the start. Why'd she go there? And I couldn't explain it to him then, and I can't today. I don't know why Jean, or I guess Dark Phoenix, because she's in the driver's seat for most of the yeah. Why does she go there? I have no clue, other than that in the comic they also I forget if in the animated cartoon. I haven't seen that since, yeah, I guess 15 years ago, probably more. Probably longer. They started re-airing it after the first X-Men movie came out. So that was, I don't think I'd watched it. Well, yeah, I wouldn't have. Anyway, so I don't know what they do there, but yeah, they wanted to reference that from the comic, and that was, of course, also part of why we see it. Which is also, I don't know. I mean, in this, it's the first time you see that house at all, because at the start of the movie, you see them in a car. I guess ultimately it might have been better if this movie also had opened with her in that house, at least briefly. But I do still think it is legitimately like, yeah, the she's she doesn't just show up there because it's in the comic. And again, and that's the thing. Yeah, I'm spoiling the comics storyline as well. It's several decades old. I'm sorry, but I'm not asking you to read the comic. I am asking that you either read Wikipedia or just, yeah. I'm just briefly gonna spoil. in the comic, she also goes to her house because she wants to see one or more members of her family. You know, it's not quite the same because in the comic, it's not that she's suddenly found out that one of her parents was still alive, even though she thought they were dead. But it is this thing of like, still got those back issues. The yeah, it is she she wants to reconnect with Jean Grey, and so goes to the home that she grew up in. I think the idea that her father was still alive, I felt like it worked fine. It again, it's mostly just the visual of the where he's like, oh, you want to remember, then remember everything. That it was a little ineffective there, but other than that, I did like the overall. Also, it very much felt like something like when something really tragic happens, sometimes you don't tell the child that it affects the truth at right away. I mean, really, the one of the big problems was that Charles never came clean with her. He didn't, like at some point you're supposed to sit your children down and say, you know, that thing about like Santa Claus. He's not really, if the kid hasn't found out by himself, but and obviously the reason Charles didn't tell her is because the powers might go out of control. But you do see that yeah, there's definitely some ego, but he's not just a complete monster. He was trying to keep her from, yeah. And I do also, I like the thing of like, at the start of the movie, it's like, oh, everybody loves the X-Men. And then after this one mutant starts killing cops and military in the US, then they're like, well, we gotta put all the powerful mutants in internment camps. Obviously, I really felt like that was a good. I think I saw some reviewers say that this doesn't have anything we haven't already seen. I would disagree. I felt like that was a very. I mean, it's almost satirical. It's a yeah. The when you're useful, the masses will love you, but if they find you in any way threatening, even if you're not, like, it would be one okay, maybe Magneto's going there. In the past, he has shown that he's willing to hurt and kill a lot of people. Okay, but why is Xavier going there? No, at that point, it is just, yeah, they genuinely, they don't see a difference anymore. And what's that line from the first one? I don't see a difference. All I see are weapons in our schools. They within maybe 48 hours, they go from Xavier can call the president directly and can be called directly by the president to you are all going to internment camps. That's yeah. I really felt like that was excuse me. Now, let's see. And huh, what does that mean? Oh, right, yes, and yeah, we have the scene between Jean and her father, and Xavier knows that Jean will go home because she says, I can hear my father. Excuse me. And let's see. I was. Huh. But yeah, oh yeah, here we go. And Jean's eye turns orange, and she's like, all these photos and none of me. And she asks, why didn't you look for me? And she breaks the glass of water that I guess water is not even her second favorite thing in the world. Again, a nice visual. In The Last Stand, part of the problem is we can't tell how Jean is trying to destroy, but she's destroying stuff that's here, or you know, excuse me. Where like in this, if you've got you've got Jean here and her father over here, and he's holding the glass. The moment she smashes, she destroys the glass. That tells the audience, that she is using her powers. Like clearly, it's not like enough to throw him into a wall, but it is. There is some, and it is enough to destroy some things. Let's see. Come back to me. Remember, you said you would always come back to me. Just yeah. Some of this stuff worked, and let's see. Right, and the fight outside of Jean's house. And I thought that it was, excuse me, it was a decent enough little fight. It wasn't like especially, yeah. I don't know that I thought that the movie moved slowly, or that there was like no action scenes, or but it was. I do agree with those that say that the action just isn't that. It's not like amazing, and it really doesn't have any excuse not to be amazing. Just think about the superpowers on display in this movie. The fact that these scenes are not amazing. Yeah, we're talking. It's one of the seven deadly sins. I don't remember what number it is, but you know the let's see. But yeah, I yeah, actually I wrote that down somewhere. And Raven is impaled when she's knocked away. Excuse me. And it really gets to Beast, and Raven dies telling Hank, "I love you," and he says it when she's dead. So I'm gonna help her now. But yeah, just I really felt like that was, yeah, they did a excuse me. I do feel like the whole thing with Raven's death and the way it motivates the Hank and Eric. Excuse me. So that worked well. And Scott defends Jean to the ex-kids. Excuse me. Stay strong. And Storm has the monologue about people. They are who sorry, about admitting people are who they are. And I made notes on that in the okay, and Beast blames Professor X for Raven. We were defending the kids from the world when we should be protecting them from you. It's much easier to understand your language when you're not screaming. See, that just makes me wonder, is she saying there are languages that where that isn't true? Because I mean, I guess there might be. I I don't know. I realize it's just like they wanted to give her like a badass line of like, I'm gonna make you scream, and I'm not even, I don't even really care about doing it. It's slightly annoying. It's more difficult to understand what you're saying, which also just, I mean, aren't there ways of making him talk that won't lead to him screaming? I don't know, maybe they left those on the spaceship or something. And Jean goes to Genosha. And there's the thing of, you hurt people. I used to hurt people. How did you stop? And he points out, he killed for revenge, but he never stopped. He kept feeling, he kept wanting revenge, so he decided to stop. And got 2 American helicopters. Military, and this was where I noticed there are some real, like, super close-ups in this movie. I mean, it is maybe especially in this, like when the military guy and Magneto are like face to face, just like super close up, and it's like, I don't know, it was a little like, yeah. Anyway, and then there's like, what's it? One of them says like, "We don't want to fight," and it's like, you knew that Eric was in charge here, and you went in with all this metal. Like, it just, it didn't take that long for these like Polish police to be like, okay, let's get rid of all metal and let's just come at this dude with like bows and arrows. That didn't take them very long. So why were the US military so like, yeah, is why would you ever under any circumstances use a helicopter to transport people near someone like Magneto unless you're on his side? Like, that really is just, you know what? How about we walk? But it's halfway across the planet. We're gonna walk now. And yeah, the attack. Jean and Magneto working on the military helicopter, like, one of them is trying to bring it down and the other is trying to send it back up, and just, I don't know, that was funny. Yeah. And Magneto's like talking to the military dude about like his rights and all this stuff. Just, it's a I don't know. I feel like this was a pretty interesting Magneto, and I liked that. If I mean, I will say it's basically the same thing. The like arc is the same as in Apocalypse, which was the very last movie. So literally, like, it's, he's like, I am at peace here. I have my family, at least one of whom is a mutant, and nobody, comes, gets in my face and says, weren't you that guy who tried to commit genocide? You know what I mean? No, no, not that time. The other time. And then like there's some a mutant he cares about dies, and then he starts like, and then he goes out and was like, I'm gonna kill people to get revenge of the. And then at the end he's like, you know what? This was I was mistaken when I decided to go around killing people. I should not do that anymore. How about a game of chess? I mean, they don't actually play chess at the very end of Apocalypse. Yeah, I guess they don't play chess in Apocalypse at all. I don't think, but I mean, but I will say, I did think that, I mean, they've been calling it this thing of like Xavier as Martin Luther King Jr. and Magneto as Malcolm X. So yeah, I mean, the idea of a place where only mutants live and they live separately from the rest of the world, it's perfect. It's exactly what would, yeah. And like Lindsaylis said of the idea of them representing those two, not gonna touch that one. As yeah, like, yeah, I basically already said this, but I know that Gene, you have to go. Why are you, why won't you, why would you stand up for me? You attacked the military. It was right here. Like it's almost like one of those Trumpian things. I didn't say she was nice. We have it on tape. It's like, what? What do you mean I'm going to be a problem? You you just attacked two helicopters. And let's see. Yeah, and the internment camps, and yeah, because of Jean makes sense. And Xavier cannot call the person anymore. What? Start at lose it. I do not know what that note was supposed to denote. Right, and the Jean is like, how did you find me? And I forget exactly what it is. I'm just gonna call her Jess. Jess, short for Jessica Chastain. I don't know how to pronounce Vuk, Vuk. I don't know. I think it's maybe said at least one point in the movie, but I'm gonna call it Jess. Which, by the way, I think it was very agreeable of her to bring her entire people into the movie instead of only herself, because when you get right down to it, the only reason that there is a single shapeshifter in this movie, other than Jess, is cannon fodder. Literally every single character. That, like, I don't think there's a single thing a character other than Jess does that couldn't just have been done by Jess, or maybe just didn't need to be done at all. Anyway, how did Jess find Jean? Like, Dad told her about, oh, there's this bar that my 8-year-old daughter likes to drink. I have no idea what. And Hank wants Eric to find Jean using the mutants and the. Is it supposed to be the, like, did Caliban? I guess he didn't die in Apocalypse because it's supposed to be the same Caliban in Logan, right? I mean, I guess there's some chance that it is him and he's just off screen each time. And Eric says, if I find her, I'll kill her. And Hank says, basically, exactly, that's why. That's what I mean. And just people are not scared of Jean's powers. And we're told that Phoenix Force sparked the universe. destroyed just planet, and it can make a life, it can create. And Eric and Hank both love Raven. That's, basically the one thing they have in common. And Storm goes with, even though Xavier doesn't want her to. If you touch her, I will fucking kill you. That was so good. I mean, they gotta drop that one F-bomb somewhere, and yeah, it's a good, yeah. Yeah, the fight in the streets is decent. And Hank attacks Scott. There's my X. Excuse me. And Magneto starts digging up dirt, which is the power he got from Apocalypse, so he does still have it, which I wasn't entirely sure about. And that's when he gets the subway train, and Magneto tries to attack her with the metal rod, and Jean makes Professor X walk to her. Excuse me. And the visuals as she loses control and power spreads, they're good here, and there aren't, there basically aren't any in Last Stand. And yeah, and we get Jean and Professor X flashbacks and mind reading, and just tries to take the Phoenix Force. Good visual. They set their phasers to stun. And here we have it. One woman hugs another, almost leads to the death of everyone on Earth. See, that's the gay agenda right there. I once dated someone who would not watch a movie because one woman kisses another woman, even though it's completely non-sexual. And people wonder why we need, Pride Month, and yeah. Let's see. I guess, yes, just to briefly clarify, I'm saying I wish that when I found out that that was something that would make her, where she would be like, no, that movie must be terrible if it has one woman kissing another woman. I really wish that I had been able to say, if that's how you feel, then you and I are not. We are not gonna work as a couple. Now, and Professor X admits he was wrong. Jean's on the train, but knocked out, hands trapped. I really thought in the trailers that was her arriving behind the train in the trailers, but she's on the train. Good editing. And again, not deceptive, because they didn't say for sure, it was just something we assumed. And you've got aliens, plane, train. And the mutants are like, free us! And then the other guy's like, keep your mouth shut. If you say so, Clint Eastwood. And yeah, the mutants keep saying, let us help, versus the aliens. After Raven's death, the characters act based on like what they want to do, because she died, and she died the way she did, and what they maybe think she would want and such, which I appreciate that the death has some weight. And it means JLo does not have to act for those scenes. So that's I really don't blame her for not being enthusiastic about the writing in this or Apocalypse. I really love I think this is what Gino, I want to say, from the midnight screenings, Brad Jones and such review of this movie, which I watched right before I hit record. He's like, they're acting like she was important. Was she supposed to be important? Because we don't know anything about her. I really love, like, Magneto's like, Celine! And I'm just like, so that's her name. She had lines. She did. 3 or 4 short ones. I mean, I guess she agreed with the cause, and she had some kind of, like, I guess telepathic, like, she would, like, yeah, send a message to a bunch of different people at the same time with a, that's what it is. She's the reply all button, and Magneto's frustrated. He's gonna have to find that. Another one. And we have all the faceless aliens dying, and Kurt kills some of the aliens. I like that one of them he literally lets get run over by a train. Like, I mean, it's kind of like in Deadpool 2, the last guy that killed, yeah, the one that he didn't kill before, excuse me, that killed Vanessa. Except he himself doesn't stay, of course. And Magneto uses the steel on and of the train in the fight, which is pretty cool. And there's that one train car that basically, like, gets dropped, and yeah, very cool. You know what happens to a storm when it's hit by her own lightning? And Magneto's firing at Jess with these assault rifles and such. Film Brain was like, I don't understand. So if you shoot them with a heavy machine gun, that kills them, but then these other weapons don't. I feel like the movie explained. I mean, yeah, the really heavy stuff kills them. Some of the lesser stuff doesn't affect them as much. I mean, it's like if someone tried to stop a human being by just like throwing a little gravel at her forehead versus like taking a huge rock and smash, yeah, trying to crack the skull with it, that's gonna, yeah, there's at least 1 0 too many on that T1000. I I mean, when Jess takes bullets, yeah, it just like morphs back into, yeah. Excuse me. And Professor X talks. Let's see, it's mine. Jean versus Jess. It's time to protect my family. And Jean creates the bubble of defense around the other X-Men, like as a kid she did for herself. And then Jess is gone for, like, it's not a huge thing, but I was like, come on, she's not actually gone, is she? And yeah, I feel like they could. Excuse me. Let's see, and let's see and Jean fights aliens, tearing them apart with telekinesis. Jess versus Jean. Jess can't take all of Jean's power and kill everyone. Let's see, Jean, Jess, Phoenix, in space, which also had me wonder, like, is it gonna just be left in space? And I'll get more into it. Now, in X-Men: The Last Stand, there is no alien force. It's just Jean's powers. So when Jean dies at the end of the movie, Jean's powers just stop because it was her being alive. But in this movie, it is decidedly this alien force. So it couldn't just end with Jean dying. If that power would have to go somewhere. So instead, we have this, force at Phoenix Force at the end up in the sky. And now it's the Jean Grey School, and she talks about being past. And now Hank is the dean. Professor X is at this coffee shop. Eric comes by, they have chess, and then they play some coffee, presumably. And this is where I start to wonder, the US government gave Eric Genosha, I guess, and in response to the genocide. Maybe it was like a pinky swear, don't try to commit genocide again. So let's see. Right, and the scene, in both this and The Last Stand, there's a fight by the house Jean Grey grew up in. But in this, it's more effective because it's actually Jean hurting her friends. I mean, at the end of the day, the fight in The Last Stand could easily have taken. I get it. The idea is that they're fighting to get close to Xavier, Jean, and Magneto before it's too late. That's partially frustrating because by the time they do get there, it is basically too late, so they might as well not have bothered. Nothing would have happened if the X. That's one of the big problems with the third movie: irrelevant action scenes. But if you didn't have any context, like the fight wouldn't work that much less if like it's just Wolverine fights Juggernaut, Storm fights the plague crying chick from Heroes, and that's it. There's nothing. Yeah. So let's see. Filmbrain said that Quicksilver was back at the end. I have to admit, I didn't notice when he was. Yeah. Yes, so that is every single note that I took while watching, which brings us, of course, directly to notes taken before watching. So, in preparation for this, for the last few weeks, months, I've rewatched every X-Men franchise film, every single one. And yes, I know here it's possible the movie will turn out to be absolutely terrible, but I have to admit the first trailer released near the end of September 2018 is the first time a trailer for a main X-Men movie has gotten me excited since X-Men: The Last Stand, which actually turned out pretty bad, so never mind. And someone on Nerd says it's just that they've gotten good at editing trailers. Yeah, that's it. And I would at this point like to make absolutely clear, it's not that this is the first time I've been excited about an X-Men movie. I was excited about the first three from the moment I knew it existed or were going to exist. I only stopped being excited about the third one when I was watching it. I wasn't excited about X-Men First Class. I was always excited about Days of Future Past, due to the story due to Bryan Singer returning. I was excited about Apocalypse right after watching Days of Future Past, but that faded over time. And I wasn't excited about this movie before the trailers hit. So, we have the second worst X-Men film. Because it's not the worst, it's only the second worst, and because it's also the second take on the worst. Why shouldn't the new continuity Fox X-Men movies die trying desperately to adapt the same story as the first one? So, trailers. Yeah, so Gina asks, why did you make me do that? Because Jennifer Lawrence is sick to death of being in these movies. Let's see. And Mystique is like, you're my family, Gene, no matter what. Seriously, every group of good guy people in comic book films these days are or call themselves family. Even in Shazam, they don't have superpowers, although they are foster family, so I guess there's that. X-Force, Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's see. According to this, X-Men, arguably the Avengers. The Suicide Squad even call themselves family. They aren't even good guys, but obviously they're not family either. And yeah, so Jean sends Mystique flying backwards. Jennifer Lawrence finally gets out of this movie franchise so she doesn't have to sit for that makeup anymore. I don't blame her. I have a hard time understanding that anyone can stand sitting through that. I'm just glad that, at least it appears in this trailer, that it'll matter. Death won't just be pointless. And yeah, I would say so. Excuse me. I don't think it's pointless. You know, it does drive plot after it happens. Nothing really came of Charles and Scott dying in The Last Stand, other than, yes, them being written out. But then Charles does come back in the post-credits scene, and her death also means they won't have to come up with things for her to do in the climax of these movies. Let's see. Now, I was wondering if Jessica Chastain was going to be just a figment of, like a visual manifestation of a split personality, excuse me. Which I do think would have been, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I do think that might have been a better idea. Honestly, the whole alien thing could so easily have been completely gotten rid of. The aliens are there to be cannon fodder, and yeah, it would make a lot of sense. Excuse me. Like maybe when when the barriers start coming out is when Jean starts seeing Jessica Chastain, and eventually she realizes the the noises that make her say, say stop over and over until it just becomes too much, and she uses her powers in a destructive way. That's actually Jessica Chastain, and that she saw her when she was 8 as well, but the block that Xavier put kept her away, excuse me, for the rest of that time. Now, in The Last Dance, clearly dissociative identity disorder is still the case here. Certainly when she kills Mystique, looks like a psychological issue. She's losing control of herself. And the bit where Cyclops goes, tell me how to fix this, Charles, tell me what to do, and Xavier responds, I don't know what to do. I'm almost certain that's not in the actual movie. Yeah, and you have Storm's monologue. Storm grew up on the streets of Kenya as a thief, so she has definitely encountered people who she didn't want to believe were evil, but who did evil things. So I'm really glad that they gave that line to her. It makes a lot of sense for her to be the one. And see, if we had just seen some of her background as flashback in the first movie, her personality would make so much more sense there. But yeah. and they have the mutant power disabling neck bands, like in Deadpool 2. Although that movie is set in like 2018, so those are a later generation probably. Now, right, and yeah, and the in the other trailer I noted that this like suburban place. I was wondering if that was Jean Grey's home, family's home, and noted, she goes down the last stand like she does in the comic. In the comic, her family's actually there, and it's a good element. And she uses her telekinesis to bring a helicopter to the ground, kind of reminiscent of Captain America in his second solo movie. Let's see. What's that say? Okay. Right. These trailers do, of course, as most recent action movie trailers do, give too much away. I feel like the scene on the mutant train is probably something that's going to happen very late in the film. Yeah, it's basically a little climax. We also know from these trailers that Jean is going to kill Mystique. Jennifer Lawrence has been wanting to get out of these movies for a while now, so I'm glad they appear to be making that meaningful. Now, let's see. Right, and from the final trailer. Yeah, the X-Men are popular with the public, which they are in at least some of the comics. So I'm glad we get to see that in at least one movie before at least this version of the X-Men continuity ends. Quicksilver's hair doesn't bother me here like it usually does. And yeah, in the movie itself as well. And he's so ridiculously overpowered. And let's see. And they still can't quite be properly integrated in action scenes that involve other characters. The way they finally did with Nightcrawler's powers and Apocalypse. The way that Age of Ultron does with Quicksilver. But let's see. I'm really glad that they didn't feel a need to do another one where he runs for several minutes straight. That was great in Days of Future Past, in part because it was unexpected, and then they do it in Apocalypse for twice as long. And did you hear what the kids are calling you? Phoenix. That's not an absolutely terrible way to justify calling her that. Hello, Jean. Who are you? The better question is, who are you? That is a clever turn of phrase. And that is something I look forward to seeing explored in the movie. But seriously, though, who are you? Let's see. Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? And now there's this. Excuse me. I think Watch Mojo video called Top 10 Insanely Powerful Marvel Characters. And they talk about Phoenix Force and what they say does fit with what they say in the movie as well. A lot of the way, at least. Yeah, not all the way, but a chunk. Now, while several of the X-Men movies have had heroes with clear powers fighting villains with clear powers, and certainly every single one of them has at least two good guys fighting at least two separate evil mutants. Let's see, X-Men 2, this is because of mind control, but still. Hmm. Right. Yeah, I was wondering if the X-Men were going to have to work as a team to take out Dark Phoenix. I mean, ultimately, I think that would have been. I think again, just get rid of the aliens. I think it would have been a compelling, like if they knew they had to do something that would like temporarily stun her, so that the so that Xavier would be able to get, you know, to wake the her real personality back up so that she could take control and stop hurting people. I think it would have been really compelling, and they could have had like near the very end of the climax of X-Men Apocalypse, basically one after another attacks Apocalypse, and he'll do something to take that X-Men out, and then another will, you know, will fight Apocalypse, and then he'll take that one out. And so I think something like that would have been really cool with Phoenix, especially, yeah, and you could have had like a thing of if she has, if they don't keep coming at her like that, she's gonna start killing the ones she already has stopped. And if they run out of X-Men for her to, to throw at her, then Xavier won't be able to get in and she'll kill everyone. Now, let's see. Yeah, but in X-Men 3, it's literally just Wolverine who stops Dark Phoenix. I get that he has a certain relationship with her, and the in-movie explanation is that everybody else is torn apart by her abilities, but him and his pants heal. But these movies are supposed to be about an entire team of superpowered good guys. The last stand right before Wolverine stabs Jean, says he'd die for her, and she changes from Phoenix to Jean. The skin on her face clearly changes between the sickly, demonic possession one and the healthy one, showing visually even beyond her acting. But Jean is coming to the forefront, not bad, anything like that in this. And yeah, certainly when there's the orange glow to the pupils, and she gets the like stuff glowing out of her face when she becomes more Phoenix and not when she's not. Now let's see. Yeah, in the comic, basically she commits suicide in front of Cyclops after an emotional farewell, and it makes a lot of sense that the Last Stand chose to have Wolverine do it. Having to kill your loved one is more dramatic than having to commit suicide in front of your loved one, and I was wondering if this was going to have Cyclops kill her. And I mean, I'll grant I did not expect the movie to end quite like it did, so that's something at least. Now, I was wondering if this movie is going to introduce a lot of new characters, since that's one of the biggest problems in the X-Men movie series. And it really doesn't. It focuses on the ones that are there, but a bunch of them were only one movie before this one, so it doesn't feel as. I liked that, like, basically Nightcrawler goes kind of dark and, like, basically like in the first one, he's shy about fighting this one dude, and will only do it because they'll kill them if they don't fight. Excuse me. And then in this, he's like he grabs a knife and he's teleporting around, killing. I really liked, and I think the actor did a good job. As good as the acting in this is not the best, but the I thought that it was a good, like, you take a character that's so far been seen as very kind of goody two shoes, and then you do something like that to them. You know, sometimes that works really well. Sometimes it kind of fails. I feel like this one was a pretty good, yeah. Now, the Phoenix symbol doesn't look incredible in X-Men 2 and X-Men 3. It's kind of okay, but the trailers do make it look like they got it right this time. I would say they did, and it also looks right in Apocalypse. But I had honestly forgotten that that movie even had the, yeah. Anyway, now X-Men 2, the climax is essentially a series of individual scenes where one or two mutants use their powers in the one situation so that everyone gets something to do with their powers. And later X-Men movies do a better job having mutants use their powers at the same time, more or less the same place. You could argue, let's see, that's a better job. Same time. There's something missing from that note. I can't quite tell. I don't always proofread these. Even though X-Men 2... Oh, maybe X-Men 3 were... Anyway, yeah. Even though X-Men 2 scenes are better, part of this is unfortunately that they almost all just use them to fight someone, or in X2 some of it is not really straight up fighting. Now, it's much too early to do the Phoenix story with this group of mutants. A ton of them only appeared in a single movie before this one. They were introduced in X-Men Apocalypse, where a bunch of them weren't that major. Like, they had to share a lot of screen time with other, yeah. Excuse me. It's not going to have enough emotional impact by the time she became Phoenix in the first 2 or 3 movies. She'd been Jean in 2 whole movies before, and she was established in having trouble controlling powers, even in the first movie. In the second movie, they talk about how powers have grown, in addition to her self-controlling. Excuse me. In X-Men 2, they, since the end of X-Men 1, so Magneto's machine's radiation and or her using Cerebro may have caused it to grow, unlocked it. In the third, it seems like it was unlocking her dormant side. In X-Men 3, there was an established relationship between Jean, Cyclops, and Wolverine. In this, you could argue that she has relationships to Cyclops and Mystique, but neither of them were that strong. She barely had even a single conversation with Mystique in Apocalypse. The only scene they shared, she asked if Mystique was afraid during the jet ride to the mission. Excuse me. And she said she was the first time. And then Mystique barked cliches at them in the Danger Room at the end, where Jean was present. And Jean was one of the many mutants who were inspired by Mystique's actions at the end of Days of Future Past. I realized that, excuse me, 9 years have passed since Apocalypse, but we didn't see that. The movie will have to work hard to convince us much happened between them and make us feel it. Excuse me. Yeah, and I don't think it quite succeeded. The only relationships between main characters, excuse me, Charles Xavier, Magneto, Beast, and Mystique. Now it's starting to be like a what's it called? Like old timey kind of like comedy timing bit almost. Anyway, can this possibly use the relationship between Xavier and Magneto as well as has been in previous movies? I mean, not really, no. And yeah, it's really not trying to. Days of Future Past really gets a lot of Xavier, Magneto, and Mystique, to an extent Beast, although Beast wasn't really part of the dynamic series. All 3 men in a relationship with Mystique. Did Magneto even meet Jean in the Apocalypse? They both rebuilt Xavier and Jean's powers, but they didn't actually say anything to each other or even look at each other. And yeah, they literally may not even know each other's names. Is that why he says the girl dies instead of Jean dies? Since Mystique dies in this movie at the hands of Jean, maybe Magneto wants to avenge her by killing Phoenix. As well as making the world a safer place for mutants, since it doesn't look like she has a problem hurting mutants. First time directing for Simon Kinberg. His writing on the series is hit or miss. Before this movie, he wrote The Last Stand, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse. Some first-time directors can handle a huge budget, but a number of them cannot. Couldn't they get at least like a first or second unit director, cinematographer? And being a writer just means he knows the franchise. Maybe they know what they're doing. Outside of X3 and Origins, they've consistently had great directors for this franchise. Hollywood seriously needs to stop handing huge movies to people who have not directed huge movies before. 2015 Fantastic Four, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, etc. Now, this is true in some territories and not in others. This isn't called X-Men, the first in the main film series. Only ones without are Wolverine solos and Deadpool solos. I guess with the Phoenix, they have the one X in there that they're contractually obligated to include. In addition to rewatching the movies, I also watched the videos that Doug Walker has done on the movies, as well as the animated show. The best and brightest scientists from all over the world have been working tirelessly to try to figure out why I would subject myself to such frustrating content, and they've been unable to solve the mystery. I mean, the Deadpool 2 one wasn't terrible. Now, X-Men The Last Stand rewatch notes. The child actor for Jean isn't bad. I mean, she's not asked to do much, but she does that little bit quite well. And, you know, yeah, this movie's version is... I don't... It's not fair to say better, because she gets more to do, so it's possible this one could have handled it as well. But she is great. We don't actually see regular Jean for very much of the screen time of Famke Janssen. Struggle to conflict between these two personalities is barely seen, mostly just discussed. The trailer makes it seem like this movie, Dark Phoenix, will do a much better job. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's not... Excuse me. No, I don't think... I've seen others say it better than I could. There at the end of the movie, again, talking about X-Men 3, Phoenix is just throwing a temper tantrum. She can't possibly think that destroying the building on the island will do any good, right? Cure Kid and Angel's dad are already off the island. It's not like they couldn't possibly make the cure some other place with those two. If she was after them specifically, then why not chase after them before starting to just destroy everything passively like that? I appreciate that Magneto using his powers is cool in this movie. My big problem is that it's inconsistent with the other movies. In the first two movies, based on how we see him use his powers, he wouldn't be able to just throw away entire cars like the ping pong balls. Like they are ping pong, like he does in this movie. Lift the bridge, like he's just moving a cinder block. I'm not talking about the way he is moving, but the effort it looks like it takes from him. The way I see it, it should look like it takes effort for him to use his powers. That's the way they do it in the Bryan Singer directed movies, as well as First Class. It's just more compelling to watch the character do something that takes effort. And I think they did it right in this movie. In The Last Stand, it's like you're watching someone play a video game where the player character is overpowered. Like they're watching an actual character do something that ties into that character. First time we see Magneto use his powers is because he was horrified that he was being separated from his parents. He should feel something every time he's using them. Now, X-Men 3's DVD has various trailers, but the links for them are in 3 different menus. Was someone working on it trying to extend how many days he was working on it? Where they paid more money for each by the separate menu? Maybe an intern got a little creative. 2 of them are for the movie. One of them is for a season of 24, and one is an early clip from the Simpsons movie. But other than that, All of them are for trailers for movies from around the time this was released. A few of them were released the same year as this, but none of them are very old. Why not put them all in one menu? X-Men Origins Wolverine rewatch notes. The old man tries to warn Logan away from seeking revenge, and the rest of the movie is Wolverine getting revenge. It wouldn't have been difficult for them to have pathos with this. The only thing that undermines him getting revenge is that it turns out Sabretooth didn't actually kill Kayla. But he already wanted to stop Sabretooth from hurting other people. Kayla was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not like the camel was at peak physical condition before that point. But the old man tries to warn Logan not to solve his problems with violence, and he solves all his problems with violence, and there are no real consequences. It's not as though if Wolverine just hadn't gone after Stryker, things would have been fine. Stryker actively tries to kill him, and at the end, Wolverine is able to free all the captured mutants, so clearly something very good did come of him using violence. Kayla dies near the end. That could have been a good place for them to have the violence backfire. Have it be Wolverine who accidentally hits her. Excuse me. In the comics, he does hurt people he cares about when he is in his berserker rage. In the first movie, he did accidentally stab Rogue. Let's see. In fact, if the movie had him accidentally attack her after defeating not Deadpool, and then immediately after, Stryker shoots him with memory erasing bullets, that could have made for a tragic ending. Let's see. X-Men First Class rewatch notes. In this movie, they do a really good job of making the telepathy visual, which they don't really in the first three movies. I was wondering if this movie does it. I mean, it's mostly when there's like flashback stuff. Between this, X-Men 2, and Days of Future Past, both versions of Mystique have imitated William Stryker, and the J-Law version has imitated his father as well. And as others have noted, doesn't use the 90s setting, even though First Class used the 60s, Future Past used the 70s, Apocalypse did not use his 80s much. Like nearly all of the movies in this franchise, too many characters, including mutants, so many just stand around, too many underexplained mutants and powers. The Wolverine rewatch notes. At the end, Mariko tells Yukio, "You're my only family." Granted, I killed 50% of my other living family and didn't seem to care when the other 50% died. This movie definitely has the best use of Funky Johnson playing Jean. The first half hour of this movie has Logan just determined to not let any of the Yoshida family kill themselves. Days of Future Past rewatch notes. This is definitely the best X-Men franchise film. I appreciate that the character, Wolverine, like, yeah, like every time traveler in the Terminator franchise arrives from time travel naked, and like numerous of the time travelers in the Terminator franchise walks away from the camera showing off their naked ass. I was wondering if this movie would use elements from X-Men Origins Wolverine like Deadpool and Logan do. I don't really think so, and it does make sense. Those are two movies that have relationships with. Yeah, those are three movies that have relationships with Wolverine. In the comics, I'm not sure Wolverine and Deadpool have that much to do with each other, but Deadpool was introduced movie-wise in the first Wolverine solo movie, so yeah. Now, X-Men Apocalypse rewatch notes. Jean reads Wolverine's mind, and his creation in the Weapon X program is part of the context of the scene. The very last thing they do in the last movie they share, which is, of course, chronologically the first thing, and the first real interaction between them in the first movie they shared. So you can see, you can state the obvious. Apocalypse refers to Storm as a goddess, which I was wondering if that meant she would have like a big head in this, but she seems to have like taken to heart like, well, if I'm a goddess, then I better be saving people with my powers. Nightcrawler's comic relief and is great at it. What do you want? And is there any chance you can get me more lines? Seriously, all I get are meaningful looks. Anyone can give meaningful looks. And yeah, and here since Eric was made much stronger than he was before, is he still? And if not, doesn't make sense. And he still is. He just doesn't use it very much. I could see how like once he stopped trying to commit mass genocide, planet-wide mass genocide, him having that much power might have put him in a place where he's like, I'm gonna pursue peace now. You know, he maybe doesn't feel so powerless anymore. He isn't constantly on the defensive, you might say. Now let's see. And yes, and in the movie, Xavier wanted to make the school into a real university. He even wanted non-mutants in there. I was wondering if he was in Dark Phoenix, and if not, does it make sense that he's not? I mean, basically, he's focusing on the the benefits of the that can come with the mutants helping. Yeah. Should that be? I guess that's what it's gonna be. When Raven's real form is revealed right after the university blows up, there is a ridiculous number of ADR lines reacting to it. Stryker's able to disable mutant powers. Is he able to in Dark Phoenix? If not, does it make sense? That is, yeah, you gotta be careful with stuff like that. I have no idea why no one is able to do that in like, I mean, they have the neck bands, but other than that, I mean, you would expect some of the guys on the train, some of the military people on the train, to have like, maybe like smaller weapons that have that effect that can stun and disable mutant powers. But yeah, according to X-Men Apocalypse, electrical current disables mutant powers. It's impossible to teleport. Use telepathy through electrical current. And yeah, I don't think there's anything in this that goes against that. Jean's hair is the right shade of red for the Phoenix for the first time in the films. Eric was ready to kill everyone in the world, and he's not in this. And let's see why. I mean, basically, well, actually, I guess we can't say for sure that he's not. It just doesn't really, yeah. Are Cyclops beams lasers or concussive blasts? Origins, they're lasers. Other movies, they're concussive blasts. And I know, Scott is finally a character that the audience can like. In the original trilogy, he's bland and a wet blanket. He's not even shown to be a good leader or good at flying the X-Jet. He's bad at everything he does. In Apocalypse, he's really obnoxious. Does Magneto have an evil plan that he tries to carry out at least some point in the movie? If not, then this would be the first movie to feature him where that is the case. Yeah, this is the first time where him trying to kill Jean really isn't like some kind of evil plan. It's just good old-fashioned revenge. But he doesn't. Yeah. Let's see. I will grant that in the first movie he didn't think he would be killing people by turning them into mutants, but he certainly doesn't mind a lot of killing, as well as kidnapping and condemning to death Rogue to carry out his plan. It's not like he doesn't realize that, yeah, all three of them. I was about to say, I was about to specify Toad and Sabretooth, but Mystique as well is shown to be killing guards. Obviously, Magneto knows this. He's not gonna, he helped plan exactly how they were gonna kill them without being caught. He's not gonna go there and be surprised that there's guards there. Will this movie put the characters as race fans into it? Movies? It really should. I would say so, yes. Let's see. So, in Lindsay Ellis' video, Loose Cannon Mystique, she points out there has always been an undercurrent of Charles trying to control the women in his life. And I would say this movie does a better job of exploring that through Phoenix than Last Stand did. Nightcrawler actor has very sensitive eyes, and I was wondering if this movie is going to make use of them. I'd say it does. And I was wondering if he was going to growl again, like at the end of X-Men Apocalypse. I think he does growl at least once in this. I believe there's at least one child actor in every single X-Men franchise film, with the possible exception of the first Deadpool movie. I mean, that makes a lot of sense for a franchise in part centered on an all-ages school, but then it's also true, like, Origins doesn't show Xavier's school, it does show Xavier himself, but there's a kid actor playing Jimmy at the very start. Let's see. Huh. I guess. Yeah. Here's some. Yeah, some critics saying some Kimberly's direction is misjudged, so the actions are bad. Action is very difficult to get right. It takes training, practice. You really do not see very many first-time directors doing action well. The Russo brothers do, but they're some of the only ones. They barely count. They're like movie gods. They barely ever make mistakes. I am starting to suspect that they are actual literal gods from space who came to Earth to ensure that we were getting the very best in comic book movies. It's crazy. They're now making Magic the Gathering as like a Netflix series. I have no relationship with that game, but it definitely sounds like it's gonna be exactly the right kind of thing for them. So I'm glad that people who love that game are finally gonna get the an adaptation of it that's gonna be really, really great, because I it's unreal to me. The Russo brothers have directed 4 MCU movies, and all 4 of them are amazing. It's legitimately, I don't even know how to. It's ridiculous. The yeah. I at this point I would watch them direct traffic. Now, here, yeah, various reviewers say too much of the comic storyline is missing. I have to agree. I don't think there's any way we'll see that done properly anytime soon. I don't even think the MCU would take a risk with that. It would take several long movies. I'm not sure how much payoff there would be in the individual movies before the ending of that last one. It would be very difficult anyway. And yeah. And the video goes on to point out that with 24%, Dark Phoenix has worse Rotten Tomatoes rating than X Men: The Last Stand, 56, and Origins, 37. Let's see. And yeah, Film Brain points out in his projector review, the lighting on that scene, you can't see the bruise. I guess it's better than the whole thing being too dark, like AVP Requiem. Yeah, I'm obviously there's no defense. It's ridiculous. It wouldn't have killed him to do a close up. Like, how do you not know that? How does it not occur to you to get a good close up of something that's important to, like, the moment that she says, did did I do that to you, or I forget the exact line. The moment she says that, you cut to, you cut to him, like, I think it's like here, like if they're talking to each other, like neutral, and it's here, you could have him go like just touch a brief and insert a quick, just, very quick close up of just the entire bruised area, and just, yeah, it's so obvious. I can't, yeah. And then there's these interviews. Jessica Chastain sounds so different in interviews than the characters I've seen her play. Okay, and I guess, okay, that takes us to the final section: IMDb, Wikipedia, and critics' sites. So, sorry about that. Okay, let's see. And yeah, so let's see. There's a reviewer here says the first thing to get out of the way is this feels like a misguided attempt to shoehorn this amazing narrative into the trending women of power film movement. Yeah, I think it is like yeah, it's good if you can make that kind of thing work. But here it did kind of feel like they just suddenly they realized, oh hey, this might get good, this might get positive attention, and so they did, because it does feel kind of awkward. Now, there are several things wrong with Dark Phoenix. I'm tempted to say everything is wrong with it, except that the picture is largely in focus and the credits appear to be correctly spelled. That is an excellent, like, just crushing, just completely torching, like the I don't, if you believe in an afterlife, then I think you're getting smiling and approving nods from the likes of Oscar Wilde, Harlan Ellison. I feel like there was a third one, but I can't quite. Yeah, Tumblr isn't dead, right? I don't think he is. He probably just likes it in this current life. At least they go out with a bang, or rather several big bangs, if possible. I guess that is about it. The X-Men franchise dies doing what it loved, wasting opportunities and being the worst. There's this, so apparently, yeah, this guy called Travis Hobson writes for something called Punch Drunk Critics. I'll call him a cab home. I'm not gonna punch him. A clever, refreshing superhero flick where the hero, villain, and many supporting cast members are powerful females. I think that's an excellent point, and definitely a positive. I've seen some say that this is like Captain Marvel, only in some ways better. Captain Marvel is definitely a better movie than this, and I'm still someone who, there are definitely problems with that movie. I mean, honestly, overall, that movie probably has more problems, but the problems this movie has are bigger. And that movie does a lot right, where this movie does not do that much right. Nobody cares anymore, exclaims Fassbender at one point. It's as if he can read my mind. No, that's Xavier and Jean. And then there's this guy, Don Shanahan, who calls his like site or magazine or whatever. Every movie has a lesson. I like that. You may have to look very hard sometimes, but I accidentally clicked, excuse me. But I think there is something you can take away from every single movie. I would have to agree with that. Now, let's see. Yeah, this guy who points out that, you know, the president accepts mutants, but then Eric goes to this, like, yeah, he lives in this specific place. It's, basically in hiding. Actually, I'm not sure I still agree with. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. Now, Jennifer Lawrence, had implied that she was done playing Mystique, but she said, she said in an interview that she had a change of heart as she didn't want fans to be confused for character if her character got the Chuck Cunningham syndrome treatment. I mean, I can quite appreciate that. I mean, if she doesn't have passion for the material, to still do the movie just so that just for the fans, just so that people aren't like what happened to that. Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, I think I might have already noted, but yeah, the let's see, the yeah, I'm gonna have to. I was wondering if we were gonna get to see Genosha in an X-Men film. So the apparently, according to the trivia, excuse me, the third act was originally going to take place in space, and then after the reshoots, is the military train sequence. I really have no idea the how would they have done all it on in space. It's probably a good idea that they changed that. I don't think that would have been like so they would just suddenly be on spaceships. That really does sound like it would be. I mean, again, it would be closer to the comic, but that's not. Yeah. Anyway, right. So yeah, 1992, nearly a decade after the events of the X-Men apocalypse, the X-Men are national heroes. That makes a lot of sense. I do appreciate that the James McAvoy Michael Fassbender continuity, has a lot of clear continuity from film to film, where big events in one movie will lead to other big events. Ultimately, there's not that much in X-Men 1 that has a huge impact on how things are in X-Men 2, and the same for X-Men 2 to X-Men 3. So, yeah, I mean, that was clearly something that they were, yeah, they made a huge effort to in the younger continuity. Now, let's see. Now, Beast, other than First Class, because everyone's an a-hole in that movie, at least some of the time, there's not a single character who's never an a-hole in that movie. I honestly quite like, maybe even love, his characterization in both continuities, other than quitting the political position for teaching between X3 and the positive future scene in Days of Future Past. I don't care how good things are. Representation in political, yeah, anyway. He mostly doesn't brag about being intelligent, but uses intelligence for the betterment of others. He could so easily come off as a snob. He rarely uses his immense physical strength, i.e., his mutant power, against anyone who doesn't deserve it, who isn't trying to kill people. And even then, he doesn't use it against someone who couldn't defend themselves against him. I realize his personality already wouldn't fit the macho stereotype, but he could still very easily threaten people to get his way or the like. When relating to others, he tries to be sensitive to their problems, he's so much more of a likable character than Cyclops. Even in this, he's a more likable character. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, that's the thing about Quicksilver. This is the third movie in a row of the main X-Men film series where we know that Quicksilver and Magneto are father and son. Would have made a ton of sense for that to pay off in Apocalypse. Does it finally pay off here? No. No, it does not. At the end of this movie, there's no clear indication that Magneto knows or cares, if he does know, that his... Just... Why didn't he say it to... Yeah. Anyway. And I was wondering... let's see. Excuse me. I thought that Jess would be, making Jean think other people are saying and doing things they aren't by posing as them, but yeah. I think they did a great job hiding the aliens in the trailers. The only one you see is Jessica Chastain, and again, I really thought that it was gonna... I thought that was gonna be like a twist. I thought that by the end of the movie, like near the end of the movie, someone was gonna say, Jean, don't listen to her. And Jean would be like, you see her too? Because up to that point, it would seem like to both Jean and the audience that Jess wasn't real. She was like, she was a personification of one of the other, one of the identities that she, but yeah. Let's see. And Jessica Chastain, had turned down roles in other superhero films, but wanted to work with this because of the focus on female characters, which, yeah, makes a lot of sense. On the X2 DVD, a featurette has someone point out that early X-Men books were the first time women were given equal status to men in comic books. They get to be major characters, not just girlfriends and or girls who got in trouble. So, they have something to live up to with this movie. And, I mean, I guess some of it. Now, Jennifer Lawrence revealed that she had worked to convince Kinberg to direct the film, had promised to return for it if he did so, despite her dislike of the makeup required to portray a character. Vote of confidence, cool. Of course, since, he did a terrible job directing, I can't help but wonder if she was trolling everyone. Hmm. Let's see. And that was everything. So, yeah, I I wasn't really surprised about the quality of the film. I mean, I'm not gonna claim that it was some like huge letdown. I was pretty, uh, yeah, I knew, yeah, I've been expecting it to turn out this way. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in X-Men Apocalypse, it was clear that they were gonna do the Dark Phoenix story again, and I honestly would have been surprised. I mean, we're talking when I watched X-Men Apocalypse back in 2016, I did not know that it was going to be, that the Disney Fox deal was going to happen, so soon after. But back then I was still thinking they're probably going to try to do Dark Phoenix as the very next movie. So yeah, I knew right from the start. I don't have a problem with Sophie Turner, and I don't think any. I don't dislike Ty Sheridan as a just he's playing the role as it's written and he's being directed clearly. So it's not really on them, which let's comparatively the let's see if yeah I'm not gonna I can't come up with an example right now. I do think that I really don't think they have much of a excuse me, they never did have much of a chance of getting it completely right. It's just that it's something everybody knows, and the very moment that you have Jean and Scott in an X-Men movie together as a couple, yeah, the expectation is that you're gonna do the Dark Phoenix storyline at some point, and it's just not. Excuse me. It's just not one of the. Yeah, just it. They're not gonna be able to do it justice in a a movie or a movie series. Excuse me. Just like that. So anyway, so a few up until fairly recently, I was, let's see, I don't remember exactly when, but we have heard that New Mutants are, it's delayed again. It's apparently like more reshoots or something. Just unreal. But yeah, I guess that's sometime next year now instead of later this year, and just yeah. I mean, I guess there's some chance that it's just not gonna get released if they just continue to find that they can't make a version they're happy with. I don't know, but yeah. So the like pretty much everybody else has said, this is not a very satisfying conclusion to the X-Men film series. But then, I mean, basically, just pretend Logan is the last one. Other than of course the Deadpool. Actually, well, yeah, Deadpool to whatever. I don't. It's not much of a surprise. Really, they should probably have just stopped at Days of Future Past, with that ending, and then just not make more movies in that yeah, in either of those continuities, and just make, for example, Logan and the Deadpool movies and New Mutants and such. But yeah, and I think it was also the excuse me, Brad Jones or his friend in the yeah, who point out it doesn't even feel like an ending kind of movie. It doesn't feel like oh, this is definitely the last. It's not kind of closure kind of thing. It kind of feels like it's starting a new chapter, maybe, but it's not. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching as I, yeah, enjoyed. watching and enjoyed recording, and I will catch you next time.